Hey guys, so we're starting the day 5 video today. So far we've only been talking about how to calculate empirical formulas. Today we're going to get into molecular formulas. This is actually a lot easier than it seems. So basically, you guys remember that an empirical formula is the simplest whole number ratio of elements in a compound. So you are not going to find H2O2 because you could divide 2 and 2 together and you end up getting 1 and 1, right? So that's an empirical formula. The molecular formula is the actual formula of the compound, all right? So in our previous lesson, we've been talking about how we can find the empirical formula. Now we're going to start talking about how to find the molecular, okay? So there's a relationship between the empirical and the molecular formula. If you find a common, a certain number, you can multiply it by the empirical formula to find your molecular formula. So basically, you can use this right here. X is equal to the molecular formula mass divided by the empirical formula mass, and then you can use X and multiply it by the empirical formula to find your molecular formula. We'll do an example in a minute. But you guys can see right here, all three of these have the same empirical formula. It's all C1H2O1. Now, formaldehyde is the same, its molecular formula is the same as the empirical formula, right? If I take formaldehyde, or the empirical formula, and I multiply it by 2, it'll turn into acetic acid, which is vinegar. You guys have already dealt with this, right? So each one of these numbers was multiplied by 2 to get the molecular formula. And if I take this empirical formula and I multiply it by 3, by 6, each one of these will be multiplied by 6, and I'll end up getting the molecular formula for sugar, right? So this is very simple. You find a number, you multiply it by the empirical formula, and you will get the molecular formula. Now, we're going to talk about how we can find that number. All right. So right now, let's go ahead and read the question. In sample problem M, okay, we're not going to go into that. The empirical formula of the compound in phosphorus and oxygen was found to be P2O5. All right, so the molar mass of the molecular formula is this. So, molar mass of molecular is equal to 283.89 grams per mole. So through some type of experiment or machine, they managed to find out that the molar mass of the molecular formula is equal to that. So this is not going to be the molar mass of your empirical formula unless if the empirical and molecular are the same formula, right? And I know that my empirical formula is P2O5, so that's basically what I'm going to start working based off of. All right? Now, what I need to find now is the molar mass of my empirical formula before I can actually get started on anything else, okay? Because if I want to be able to use this equation, molecular formula mass over empirical formula mass, I have to actually know the molar mass of the empirical formula. So, here we go. M of P2O5, or let's just make this simpler, empirical, okay, is equal to 2 times phosphorus plus 5 times oxygen. You guys remember how to do this, right? 2, because I have 2 phosphoruses, times 30.97. This is the molar mass of phosphorus, which I got from the periodic table, plus 5 oxygens times the molar mass of oxygen, which is 16. So my molar mass of my empirical formula is equal to approximately 141.94 grams per mole. All right? Now, the next step is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for X. I know that X is my molecular formula, which is 283.89 divided by my empirical formula, which is 141.94. Okay? You put that into your calculator and you will get an answer of 2. Okay, so now what do we do with this 2? Basically, you divided your molecular by your empirical to find X. And now we are going to use this equation to find my molecular formula. So I'm going to take X times the empirical, which will give me my molecular. So I'm going to take X times P2O5, and my X, don't forget, is equal to 2. So I'm going to take 2 times this and 2 times that, which will end up being P4O10. And that is how you find your molecular formula. You basically just find the value of X by dividing the mass of the molecular by the mass of the empirical. Then you use X to find your molecular formula from the empirical formula that you were given. All right? So I think that this concept is simple enough. If you need, you can come back and rewatch the video, go through the steps again, and if you really need extra help, you can always message us on Shelby.